The stagecoach rattled into Montana City on a blistering August afternoon in 1877, carrying a woman who had learned not to trust permanence, not in places, not in people, and certainly not in promises. Lily Garrett pressed her gloved hand against the dusty window, watching the frontier town materialize through the haze of heat and prairie dust. At 23, she had already lived in 14 different places, following her father's restless prospecting from California goldfields to Colorado mining camps, never staying anywhere long enough to call it home. Now he was gone too, claimed by pneumonia in a Denver boarding house 3 months prior, leaving her with $47, a trunk of belongings, and a letter of introduction to a dressmaker in Montana Territory who might offer employment. The stage lurched to a stop outside the Wells Fargo office, and Lily gathered her worn carpetbag, stepping down into the afternoon sun. Montana City sprawled before her, more established than many frontier towns she had seen, with proper storefronts lining the main street and wooden sidewalks to keep boots from the mud. The Madison River glimmered in the distance, cutting through the valley with the Tobacco Root Mountains rising like sentinels beyond. "Miss Garrett," a woman's voice called out, and Lily turned to see a plump, gray-haired lady approaching with a welcoming smile. "I am Mrs. Henderson, the dressmaker." "I received your letter from Denver." Relief flooded through Lily. At least this much was real, this much was waiting as promised. "Thank you for meeting me, Mrs. Henderson. I appreciate your consideration of employment. Let us get you settled first. You must be exhausted from the journey." Mrs. Henderson took Lily's arm with maternal kindness. "The boarding house is just down the street. Tomorrow we can discuss the position, though I must warn you business has been slow. I am not certain I can afford to pay much." Lily's heart sank slightly, but she managed a smile. This was always how it went, nothing ever quite as promised, nothing ever quite stable. But she had become skilled at adaptation, at making do, at not expecting too much. The next morning, Lily learned that Mrs. Henderson could offer only part-time work, 3 days a week at wages that would barely cover room and board. Standing in the small dress shop, surrounded by bolts of calico and muslin, Lily felt the familiar sensation of ground shifting beneath her feet. "I understand if you need to look elsewhere," Mrs. Henderson said apologetically. "Perhaps the hotel needs help or one of the saloons requires—" "No," Lily said quickly. She had standards, even in desperation. "I will make it work. Perhaps I can find additional employment elsewhere." That afternoon, she walked through Montana City, inquiring at the general store, the hotel, and even the newspaper office. Nobody needed help, or at least nobody needed help badly enough to hire a woman with no local references and no permanent history. By evening, she sat in her small boarding house room, calculating and recalculating her meager funds, trying to make the numbers work when they stubbornly refused. The next day was Sunday, and Mrs. Henderson invited her to church. The small wooden building was packed with ranchers and townspeople, families in their Sunday best gathering for both worship and community. Lily sat in the back, feeling like the outsider she was, when a man entered late and took a seat across the aisle. He was tall, probably around 28 or 30, with sun-weathered skin and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. His clothes were clean but worn, his hands calloused and strong. He held his hat respectfully in his lap, and when he glanced her way, his eyes were the color of a Montana summer sky, blue and clear and steady. After the service, Mrs. Henderson introduced them in the churchyard. "Lily, this is Dalton Jennings. He owns a ranch about 5 miles north of town." "Dalton, this is Miss Lily Garrett, recently arrived from Denver. She is working with me at the shop." Dalton tipped his head politely, his gaze direct but not forward. "Welcome to Montana City, Miss Garrett. I hope you will find our territory to your liking." "Thank you, Mr. Jennings." Lily noticed how he stood solidly, as if rooted to the earth itself, as if he belonged to this place and it belonged to him. It was foreign to her, that kind of permanence. "Dalton has been ranching his land for 8 years now," Mrs. Henderson continued. "Built it up from nothing, he did. Most reliable man in the county." Something in that word, reliable, made Lily's chest tighten. She had known so few reliable things. "Mrs. Henderson is kind to exaggerate," Dalton said, but there was quiet pride in his voice. "I simply do what needs doing day after day. Cattle do not feed themselves." "Miss Garrett is looking for additional work," Mrs. Henderson said suddenly, as if struck by inspiration. "Dalton, did you not mention needing help with household tasks? Your sister returned to Ohio last month, did she not?" A flicker of something crossed Dalton's face, vulnerability perhaps. "I did, yes. Sarah kept house for me after my mother passed, but she married and moved east. I have been managing alone, but I confess the place is suffering for it. I am better with cattle than cooking, and the laundry situation has become somewhat desperate." He said it with such honest self-deprecation that Lily almost smiled. "I could not ask a lady to take on such work," Dalton continued quickly. "The ranch is far from town, isolated. It would not be proper without a chaperone." "My aunt lives out that way," Mrs. Henderson interjected. "Widow Murphy, half a mile from your property. She could serve as chaperone if Miss Garrett stayed with her and came to your ranch during daylight hours. The arrangement would be perfectly respectable." Lily's practical mind was already calculating. If she could earn additional wages, she might actually survive here, might actually build something resembling stability. "What would the work entail, Mr. Jennings?" Dalton looked uncomfortable discussing it. "Cooking, cleaning, laundry, general household management. I could pay $15 a month, plus provide transportation to and from Widow Murphy's place. You would work 4 days a week, leaving your other days free for Mrs. Henderson's shop." $15 was generous, far more than most household positions offered. Combined with her shop wages, it would give her a genuine foothold. But the isolation concerned her, the dependence on a stranger's reliability. "I would need to meet Widow Murphy first," Lily said carefully, "to ensure the arrangement is agreeable to all parties." "Of course." Dalton's expression showed relief that she had not dismissed the idea outright. "I could drive you out tomorrow if you are willing. Let you see the place, meet Mrs. Murphy, decide if it suits." Lily glanced at Mrs. Henderson, who nodded encouragingly. "All right, Mr. Jennings. Tomorrow." That night, Lily lay awake in the boarding house, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of Montana City settling into darkness. She thought about the rancher with his steady eyes and weathered hands, about the way he had spoken of his land as if it were part of him. She thought about her father's endless wandering, her mother who had died when Lily was 12, worn down by the rootless life. She thought about the 14 towns, and how she had never known what it meant to stay, to belong, to trust that tomorrow would resemble today. Monday morning arrived with golden sunlight streaming across the mountains. Dalton came to town in a sturdy wagon pulled by 2 bay horses, and he helped Lily up onto the seat with careful courtesy. As they left Montana City behind, rolling into the open prairie, Lily felt both apprehension and strange anticipation. "I should tell you something, Miss Garrett," Dalton said after they had ridden in silence for a while. "I am not good with words, never have been, but I am good with action. If I say I will do something, I do it. If I make a promise, I keep it. That is all I know how to be." Lily looked at him curiously. "Why tell me this?" "Because Mrs. Henderson mentioned you have moved around considerable. I figure that probably means you have seen people make promises they did not keep. I want you to know that if we make this arrangement, I will hold to my part. You can count on it. Something in Lily's throat tightened. Mr. Jennings, I have learned not to count on much of anything. He was quiet for a moment, then nodded. That sounds like a hard way to live. It is the only way I know. They rode on, the wagon wheels creaking steadily, the Montana landscape spreading vast and beautiful around them. Dalton pointed out landmarks, speaking of the land with intimate knowledge. That creek runs year-round, never seen it dry. Those peaks hold snow until July. That ridge is where the elk come down in winter. He spoke of permanence, of patterns that repeated, of reliability in nature. Lily found herself envying his certainty. The Jennings ranch appeared gradually, first as a dark line on the horizon, then resolving into buildings. A sturdy log house with a covered porch, a large barn, corrals, and outbuildings. Cottonwoods grew near the house, providing shade, and a vegetable garden, somewhat neglected, stretched along one side. It is not fancy, Dalton said, almost apologetically, but it is solid, built to last. He helped her down from the wagon, and as Lily looked around, she saw evidence of his words everywhere. The fences were straight and strong, the barn doors hung true, the house sat square on its foundation. This was a place built by someone who intended to stay, who believed in permanence. Inside, the house was indeed suffering from a bachelor's neglect. Dishes were stacked in the dry sink, dust coated the furniture, and laundry overflowed from a basket. But beneath the mess, Lily saw quality. Good furniture, a cast iron stove, real glass in the windows, braided rugs on the plank floors. Someone, probably Dalton's mother, had made this a home once. I know it is a disaster, Dalton said, looking genuinely embarrassed. I have been so busy with the cattle that I let it get away from me. Lily walked through the rooms, her practical mind already organizing tasks, creating order from chaos. She could make this place shine again, could restore the care that had been lost. The work did not frighten her. What frightened her was the small, treacherous voice in her heart that whispered how much she wanted this, wanted a place to belong, even if only as hired help. "Let me show you Widow Murphy's place," Dalton said. "She is expecting us." They walked the half-mile down a well-worn path, and Lily met Eileen Murphy, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s who ran a small chicken farm and kept bees. She was frank and funny, and she immediately liked Lily. "Lord knows Dalton needs proper help," Eileen said without pretense. "That boy can raise cattle better than anyone in the territory, but he cannot cook to save his life. I have been bringing him meals when I can, but I am too old to be doing it regular. You would be a blessing, girl, and you are welcome to stay here. I appreciate the company, truth be told." By the time Lily and Dalton returned to the ranch house, the arrangement felt possible. Dalton would pay her $15 monthly, provide transportation, and she would work Monday through Thursday, keeping her other days for Mrs. Henderson's shop. She would sleep at Widow Murphy's, maintaining propriety. "When would you want me to start?" Lily asked. "Tomorrow," Dalton asked hopefully. "Or is that too soon?" Lily looked around the neglected house, at the man who stood with such hopeful awkwardness, and made a decision that felt both terrifying and right. "Tomorrow is fine, Mr. Jennings." His smile transformed his face, making him suddenly younger, less weathered. "Thank you, Miss Garrett. I truly appreciate this." As they drove back to Montana City, Lily felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Not hope exactly, she had learned not to trust hope. But maybe possibility, the sense that this might work, at least for a while. That night, she packed her belongings, preparing for another move. 14 towns, now 15 places if she counted Widow Murphy's farm. But perhaps this time would be different. Perhaps this time she could stay long enough to catch her breath. The next morning, Dalton arrived promptly at 8, just as he had promised. They loaded her trunk and bags, and he drove her out to the ranch, helping her settle into Widow Murphy's spare room before walking her over to begin work. Lily started with the kitchen, heating water, washing dishes, scrubbing surfaces. Dalton hovered uncertainly until she shooed him out to his ranch work. "I will call you for lunch, Mr. Jennings. Go tend your cattle." Alone in the house, Lily fell into the rhythm of work. She was good at this, at creating order, at making spaces clean and functional. By noon, the kitchen gleamed. She had found supplies in the pantry, flour and beans and dried beef, and she made a simple but hearty stew. When she called Dalton for lunch, he came in from the barn, washed at the pump outside, and sat at the table with almost comical gratitude. He ate like a man who had been living on burned bacon and stale bread, which he probably had. "This is wonderful," he said sincerely. "Best meal I have had since Sarah left." "It is only stew, Mr. Jennings. Please call me Dalton. And it is a good stew. You have a talent." Over the following weeks, a pattern established itself, and Lily found herself relaxing into it despite her habitual wariness. Dalton picked her up every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning at 8 o'clock. He was never late, not once. She would work through the day, cooking meals, cleaning rooms, doing laundry, and mending. Dalton worked the ranch, tending his cattle, mending fences, cutting hay. They would share lunch and supper, and during these meals they began to talk. At first the conversation was practical. Dalton explaining what supplies he had, what he needed from town, Lily asking about his preferences for meals. But gradually the talk deepened. "Why ranching?" Lily asked one afternoon as they ate lunch on the porch, escaping the heat of the kitchen. Dalton leaned back, considering. "My father was a rancher, but he lost everything in the panic of '73. Died bitter and broken. I vowed I would build something that would last, that would not fall apart when times got hard. This ranch, it is built on patience and consistency. I never overextend, never borrow beyond my means. Slow and steady, that is my way." Lily heard the determination in his voice, the commitment to permanence. It fascinated her, this dedication to stability that she had never known. "What about you?" Dalton asked. "Why did your family move so much?" Lily set down her fork, the old pain surfacing. "My father chased dreams. Gold, silver, rumors of strikes and opportunities. We followed him from camp to camp, town to town. My mother hated it, but she loved him, so she followed. When she died, I became his companion in wandering. He always believed the next place would be the one, the place where we would strike it rich and finally settle. It never was. That sounds exhausting. It was." Lily looked out at the mountains, so solid and unchanging. "I envied people who lived in one place their whole lives. People who knew their neighbors, who had family homes and traditions. I never stayed anywhere long enough to make real friends, to build anything lasting." Dalton was quiet, then said softly, "You could stay here, build something lasting in Montana City." "People say that," Lily replied, trying to keep the bitterness from her voice. "But things change. Jobs end, circumstances shift. I have learned not to believe in permanent things. Not all people are unreliable, Lily. Not all situations are temporary." She looked at him, at the earnestness in his blue eyes. "You cannot promise that, Dalton. Nobody can." "No," he agreed. "But I can promise that I will be here, doing what I said I would do as long as you choose to stay. That much I can control, and that much I promise you." Something in Lily's carefully guarded heart cracked slightly, letting in a sliver of light. As autumn approached, Lily found herself settling into life at the ranch in ways that both comforted and terrified her. She knew where Dalton kept his tools, knew which hens laid eggs where, knew the pattern of his days. She learned that he sang quietly to the horses when he thought nobody was listening, that he checked the sky every evening with the careful attention of someone who depended on weather, that he had a dry sense of humor that emerged when he relaxed. She also learned that he was, as Mrs. Henderson had said, extraordinarily reliable. He was at Widow Murphy's at 8 every morning without fail. He paid her wages on the first of each month, counting out the bills with careful precision. When he said he would fix the garden fence, it was fixed by evening. When he promised to bring supplies from town, they appeared. It was so different from her father's well-meaning but chaotic approach to life, from the constant disappointments and changed plans. Dalton's consistency was like watching the sun rise, dependable and sure. October brought the first snow, just a dusting that melted by noon, but a reminder that winter was coming. Dalton began preparing, stocking hay, checking his cattle, ensuring his buildings were tight against the coming cold. "I will need to reduce your hours through the winter," he told Lily apologetically one afternoon. "Not because I do not need the help, but because the roads can become impassable. I do not want you stranded here or unable to get here safely." Lily's stomach dropped, the old familiar fear rising. This was how it always happened, circumstances changing, situations ending. "I understand," she said stiffly. Dalton looked at her carefully. "I will still pay you the full wage," he continued. "You can come when weather permits and I will manage the rest. I am not ending our arrangement, Lily. Just adjusting it for safety. You do not need to pay me for work I do not do. I need you to have stability," Dalton said firmly. "You need to know you can count on this income, even when circumstances change. That is what consistency means, Lily. It means being reliable, especially when things are difficult." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes, startling her. She turned away, blinking them back. "Why?" she whispered. "Why does my stability matter to you?" The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Dalton said quietly, "Because you matter to me." Lily turned back to face him, her heart pounding. "Dalton." "I am not good with words," he said, his weathered face earnest. "But I need to be honest. These months with you here, they have been the best I can remember. Not just because the house is clean and the meals are good, though those things are appreciated. It is you, Lily. Your presence, your voice, the way you make this place feel like a home again. I look forward to Mondays like a kid awaiting Christmas. I find excuses to come in from the barn just to talk with you. I think about you on the days you are not here." Lily's breath caught. "I am your employee. I know, and I have wrestled with that. If this is unwelcome, please tell me, and I will never speak of it again. But I cannot let winter come without you knowing how I feel. I care for you, Lily, deeply." Lily stood frozen, every instinct screaming at her to protect herself, to not believe, to not hope. "You barely know me. I know you work harder than anyone I have met. I know you take pride in doing things well. I know you have been hurt by inconsistency and broken promises. I know you love sunrises but pretend not to notice them. I know you hum when you do dishes and that you are left-handed. I know you deserve someone who will be constant in your life. And you think you are that person." The words came out more harshly than she intended. "I know I am," Dalton said simply. "I am not exciting or spontaneous. I will never drag you on adventures or chase wild dreams, but I will be here, Lily. Every day, every season, every year. As constant as these mountains, as reliable as the sunrise. If you let me, I will prove to you that some things are permanent." Lily wanted to believe him so badly it physically hurt, but the scars of her past ran deep. What if you change your mind? What if you wake up one day and decide this was a mistake? "I will not." "You cannot know that." "Yes, I can," Dalton said firmly. Because I do not make decisions lightly, Lily. I do not change courses on a whim. When I commit to something, to someone, I am committed. That is who I am. Lily pressed her hands to her face, overwhelmed. I do not know how to believe in that. I do not know how to trust permanence. Dalton crossed the distance between them, gently pulling her hands from her face. Then do not believe it yet. Just watch. Watch how I show up, how I keep my word, how I am here day after day. Let my actions prove what my words claim. I am willing to be patient, Lily. I have nowhere else I want to be. Looking up into his steady blue eyes, Lily felt her carefully constructed walls trembling. I am scared, she whispered. I know, he said softly, but I am not. That evening, as Dalton drove her back to Widow Murphy's, the air between them was charged with new awareness. At the door, he helped her down from the wagon with hands that lingered perhaps a moment longer than necessary. Sleep well, Lily. I will see you Wednesday. You promise? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Vulnerable and needing, Dalton's expression softened. I promise. 8 o'clock as always. Wednesday morning, Lily woke anxious, part of her expecting Dalton not to come, expecting the disappointment she had learned to anticipate. But at exactly 8 o'clock, she heard the wagon wheels, and there he was, as promised, as constant. Good morning, he called, his smile warm. Ready for another day? Something in Lily's chest eased just slightly. Through October and into November, their relationship shifted and deepened. The work continued as before, but now there was an understanding between them, an acknowledgement of growing feelings. Dalton was careful not to presume, maintaining respectful boundaries, but his affection showed in countless small ways. He brought her wildflowers he found while checking the cattle. He fixed the step at Widow Murphy's that had been loose. He listened with genuine interest when she talked about her work at Mrs. Henderson's shop. He asked her opinions on ranch decisions and actually implemented her suggestions. And he was always there when he said he would be, doing what he promised he would do. Lily found herself slowly, tentatively, beginning to trust it, beginning to trust him. One evening in late November, as the first serious snow began to fall, Dalton drove her back to Widow Murphy's through the swirling flakes. This might be the start of the heavy snow, he said, concern in his voice. If it is, you will not be able to get to the ranch for a while. Lily felt the familiar panic rising. How long? Could be a week or more if it is a real storm. But Lily, I will come to you as soon as the roads are passable, I promise. What if you cannot? What if you are snowed in? Dalton stopped the wagon in front of Widow Murphy's house and turned to her. Then I will wait until I can get through, and the moment I can, I will be here. You need to trust me, Lily. I am trying, she said, her voice breaking. I am trying so hard, Dalton, but I do not know how. He reached out and took her gloved hand in his. I have an idea, something that might help. May I show you? Curious, Lily nodded. Dalton helped her down from the wagon and led her away from the house, into the open field where the snow was falling steadily now. He pointed up at the sky, where through breaks in the clouds, stars were becoming visible. You see those stars? Dalton asked. They are the same stars I saw last night, and the night before that, and every night of my life. They will be there tomorrow night and the night after that, and for all the nights to come. They are constant, Lily, unchanging and reliable. Stars are not people, Dalton. No, but I am trying to be like them, constant, always there, always in the same place, shining steady. He turned to face her fully, snowflakes catching in his dark hair. Every night this winter, when you look up and see those stars, I want you to remember that I am out there, under the same sky, thinking of you, waiting for the moment I can see you again. The stars will remind you that some things do not change, and neither will my feelings for you. Lily felt tears freezing on her cheeks. "That is beautiful, Dalton." "It is true," he said simply. "I am not a poet, Lily. I do not have fancy words, but I have constancy, I have dedication, and I have love for you that is not going anywhere, no matter how long the winter or how deep the snow." "You love me." The words came out barely above a whisper. "Yes," Dalton said, no hesitation. "I love you, Lily Garrett. I think I have since you first walked through my kitchen and started organizing the chaos. I love your strength and your caution. I love that you have been hurt, but are still willing to try. I love who you are, and I want to spend my life proving to you that love does not have to be unpredictable or temporary." Lily stepped forward and did something she had not allowed herself to do in longer than she could remember. She let herself hope. She reached up and touched Dalton's face, feeling the roughness of his jaw, the warmth of his skin despite the cold. "I am falling in love with you too," she said, the admission both terrifying and liberating. "It scares me to death, but I am." Dalton's smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. "Then that is enough for now. We will work on the fear together." He kissed her then, gentle and careful as snowflakes swirled around them. It was a kiss full of promise, of patience, of permanence. When they broke apart, Lily was trembling, but not from the cold. "I should get you inside before you freeze," Dalton said practically, but his eyes were warm with emotion. That night, Lily lay in bed at Widow Murphy's, listening to the wind howling and the snow piling against the windows. Part of her expected to wake up and find it had all been a dream, that Dalton and his steadfast love were too good to be true. But another part, a part growing stronger, believed it might actually be real. The storm lasted 5 days, dumping 2 feet of snow across the valley. Lily could not get to town for her work at Mrs. Henderson's shop, and certainly could not reach the ranch. She helped Widow Murphy with indoor chores, fed the chickens when the coops could be reached, and every evening she looked up at the stars when the sky cleared. Dalton had been right. They were constant, unchanging, and somewhere under that same sky he was waiting. On the 6th day, the sun emerged brilliant and blinding on the white landscape. Lily was helping Widow Murphy make bread when they heard wagon wheels crunching through the packed snow. Her heart leaped. "Told you he would come," Widow Murphy said with satisfaction. "That boy is reliable as gravity." Lily rushed to the door and saw Dalton driving up, his wagon equipped with runners like a sleigh to navigate the deep snow. His face lit up when he saw her. "I came as soon as the road was passable," he called out. "Are you all right? Do you need anything?" Lily ran out without even grabbing her coat, tears streaming down her face. Dalton jumped down from the wagon and caught her, holding her tight. "You came," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You actually came." "Of course I came," he said, confused by her emotional state. "I promised I would." I know, but part of me still did not believe it. Part of me thought you would forget, or the snow would be an excuse, or something would change. But you are here." Dalton pulled back to look at her face, his expression tender. "Lily, I will always come. Through snow, through mud, through whatever obstacles arise. I will always find my way to you. When will you believe that?" "Now," Lily said, and realized it was true. "I believe it now. You have been constant as the stars, just like you said, and I think I am ready to trust it." Dalton's kiss this time was deeper, more passionate, a claiming and a promise all at once. When they broke apart, both breathless, he said, "I have something to ask you, but I want to wait until I can do it properly." "Do what properly? You will see. But first, we need to get through this winter, and I need to prove to you day after day that my constancy is not going anywhere." True to his word, Dalton came for Lily whenever weather permitted through that long Montana winter. Sometimes they could only manage once or twice a week, but he came every time he said he would. And when conditions made it impossible, He sent notes with Widow Murphy's nephew who lived closer to town. The notes were simple, practical things full of weather reports and ranch updates, but they always ended the same way. Thinking of you, until I can be there in person. Yours, Dalton. Lily treasured each one, evidence of his constancy accumulating like currency in her heart. On the days she could get to the ranch, they worked side by side with new understanding. Lily cooked and cleaned, but now Dalton often joined her in the kitchen, helping with dishes, talking about their future in careful, hopeful terms. "When spring comes," he said one February afternoon, "I want to plant a real garden, not just vegetables, but flowers. My mother had roses once. Maybe we could bring them back." Lily asked, her heart fluttering. "If you are willing," Dalton said, his eyes meeting hers with that steady gaze she had come to love. "I am speaking of my hopes, Lily. My hopes that you will still be here in spring and summer and all the seasons to come." "I will be here," Lily said with growing certainty. "I am not running anymore." As winter loosened its grip and March brought the first thaw, Dalton began acting mysteriously. He made several trips to Virginia City, the territorial capital, and had whispered conversations with Widow Murphy that stopped when Lily entered the room. "What are you plotting?" Lily asked him one evening. "Nothing bad," Dalton assured her, his eyes twinkling. "Something good, something I hope will be very good." On the first Saturday of April, when the snow had melted from all but the highest peaks and green was beginning to show in the valley, Dalton asked Lily to dress in her best clothes and be ready at noon. "Where are we going?" she asked. "You will see. Trust me." And Lily realized she did completely. "Yes, I trust you." Dalton arrived in the wagon, which he had cleaned and decorated with early spring flowers. He was wearing his Sunday suit, looking nervous and hopeful. He drove them not toward town, but up into the foothills to a spot overlooking the entire valley. From this vantage, Lily could see Montana City in the distance, the Madison River snaking silver through the land, and Dalton's ranch spreading green and purposeful in the middle distance. The mountains rose all around, snow-capped and eternal. Dalton helped her down from the wagon and led her to a flat rock that offered the best view. Then, to Lily's shock and overwhelming emotion, he knelt down on one knee. "Lily Garrett," he began, his voice steady despite his obvious nerves. "When you arrived in Montana City 8 months ago, I was managing fine but not really living. I was going through the motions, doing what needed doing, but there was no joy in it. You changed everything. You brought life and warmth and purpose back to my home, but more than that, you brought those things to my heart." Tears were already streaming down Lily's face. "You confessed to me that you had never known consistency," Dalton continued. "You had spent your life moving from place to place, never able to count on anything or anyone being permanent. That broke my heart, Lily, because everyone deserves to have stability, to have someone they can rely on absolutely. I have spent these months trying to be that for you, trying to prove through my actions that not everything is temporary." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring, simple but beautiful, with a small diamond catching the sunlight. "I want to be your constant, Lily. As constant as these mountains, as reliable as the sunrise, as steady as those stars we look at every night. I want to be the place you come home to, the person who is always there, the love that never wavers. Marry me, and I promise you will never wonder again if someone will show up. I will show up every day for the rest of our lives." Lily was sobbing now, unable to speak. Dalton waited patiently, hope and love shining in his blue eyes. "Yes," Lily finally managed to choke out. "Yes, Dalton, yes. 1,000 times yes." Dalton stood and swept her into his arms, spinning her around as she laughed and cried simultaneously. When he set her down, he slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" she asked through her tears. Widow Murphy helped. "I went to Virginia City to commission this from a jeweler there. I wanted it to be special, to be something that would last generations." "It is perfect. You are perfect." "I am not perfect," Dalton said seriously. "But I am yours completely and permanently. I will mess up sometimes, Lily. I will have bad days and make mistakes. But I will never leave, never give up, never break my promise to you. That is what I can offer, absolute constancy in my commitment." They stood on that hilltop, holding each other as the Montana wind whispered around them, and Lily felt something she had never experienced before: absolute certainty. This man, this place, this love was real and permanent. She could build her life here without fear of it crumbling beneath her. "When?" she asked. "When can we marry?" "As soon as you want," Dalton said. "Tomorrow, if you would have me that quickly," Lily laughed. "Let us give people time to prepare. May, a spring wedding. May is perfect. May is planting season, time for new beginnings." They were married on a brilliant May morning in the same church where they had first met. Mrs. Henderson cried happy tears and took credit for introducing them. Widow Murphy served as matron of honor, wiping her eyes throughout the ceremony. Half the county attended, ranchers and townspeople who had come to respect Dalton and welcome Lily into their community. Lily wore a dress she and Mrs. Henderson had made together, ivory muslin with lace at the collar and cuffs. Dalton wore his suit, but his eyes were what Lily noticed, full of such love and promise that she could barely breathe. When the minister asked if they promised to love and cherish each other in all circumstances, for all their days, Dalton's voice rang out clear and sure. "I do, before God and all witnesses, constantly and forever." And Lily, who had never believed in forever, who had built her life around expecting disappointment, said with equal conviction, "I do. I choose constancy. I choose you." The reception was held at the ranch, which Lily had transformed over the past month into a proper home. There was music and dancing, food and laughter. As the sun set and the party continued by lantern light, Dalton pulled Lily away from the crowd. "There is something I want to give you," he said, leading her to the porch. He handed her a leather-bound book, and when she opened it, she saw that the first page contained a single line in his careful handwriting. "May 15, 1878. Today I married Lily Garrett and became the luckiest man in Montana Territory." "What is this?" Lily asked. "A journal," Dalton explained. "I thought we could keep a record, both of us writing in it. Not every day necessarily, but for important moments, for milestones, for memories we want to preserve. Physical proof of our life together, of the constancy we are building." Lily pressed the book to her heart. "You think of everything." "I think of you," Dalton said simply. "Always." That night, after the guests had departed and they were finally alone in their home, Dalton carried Lily across the threshold with traditional ceremony. In their bedroom, he set her down gently and cupped her face in his weathered rancher's hands. "I will not let you down," he whispered. "I will be here tomorrow and all the tomorrows that follow." "I know," Lily said, and she did. "I believe you, I trust you, I love you." Their wedding night was tender and passionate, a claiming and a homecoming all at once. Afterward, lying in Dalton's arms with moonlight streaming through the window, Lily felt peace settle into her bones. She was home, truly home, for the first time in her life. The months that followed were filled with the ordinary magic of building a life together. Lily continued working with Mrs. Henderson part-time, but the ranch was her primary focus now. She planted the garden Dalton had promised, including roses she ordered from back east. She made curtains and decorated the rooms. She learned ranching skills, helping with the cattle during roundups, keeping the books for the ranch finances. Dalton taught her to ride properly, gave her a gentle mare named Star, and they explored the ranch lands together. He showed her every creek and meadow, every stand of trees and rocky outcrop. He shared his knowledge of the land with the same dedication he brought to everything, wanting her to love this place as he did. "You miss moving around?" he asked one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Miss seeing new places?" Lily considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I remember moments from different towns, things I saw or people I met briefly, but I do not miss the moving itself, the constant disruption. I love having roots, Dalton. I love knowing I will wake up in the same bed tomorrow, walk the same halls, see the same mountains. I love the rhythm of seasons here, the way life has patterns I can count on. No regrets then. None. This is everything I did not know I needed." As fall approached, Lily began feeling unwell in the mornings. At first, she thought she had eaten something wrong, but when the nausea continued for 2 weeks, Widow Murphy took her aside with a knowing smile. "Child, I think you need to see the doctor in Virginia City." The doctor confirmed what Widow Murphy had suspected. Lily was pregnant, the baby due in early spring. When she told Dalton, he went very still, then pulled her into his arms so tightly she could barely breathe. "A baby," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "We are going to have a baby." "Are you happy?" Lily asked, though his reaction made the answer obvious. Happy does not begin to cover it. Grateful, awed, terrified, overjoyed, all of those things. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes bright. "We are creating our own permanence, Lily, a family, roots that go deep. Our child will never know what it is like to move constantly, to never have a home. This ranch will be theirs, this place, this stability." Lily touched her still flat stomach, marveling. Constancy for the next generation. Through the winter, Dalton was impossibly attentive. He insisted Lily not overwork, brought her breakfast in bed, rubbed her feet when they swelled. He read everything he could find about pregnancy and childbirth, wanting to be prepared. "You cannot control everything," Lily teased him one evening as he rearranged the nursery for the 3rd time. "I know, but I can control being ready. I can make sure you have everything you need." In March, during a late-season snowstorm, Lily went into labor. Dalton rode through the blizzard to fetch the midwife, refusing to let weather or distance stop him. The labor was long and difficult, but with the midwife's help and Dalton's steady presence, Lily delivered a healthy baby boy just after dawn. "He has your eyes," Lily whispered, exhausted but elated as she held their son. Dalton was crying unashamedly, touching the baby's tiny fingers with wonder. "He is perfect, absolutely perfect." They named him Daniel Thomas Jennings, and he became the center of their universe. Dalton proved to be a devoted father, patient and gentle despite his rough rancher's hands. He would walk the floor with Daniel during fussy nights, singing the same songs his own father had sung to him. As Daniel grew, Lily watched Dalton teach their son the same values that had won her heart: responsibility, dedication, the importance of keeping promises. Even as a toddler, Daniel learned that his father's word was absolute, that when Dalton said he would do something, it would happen. 2 years after Daniel's birth, Lily gave birth to their daughter, Elizabeth Mee. She had Lily's dark hair and Dalton's steady temperament. Their family was complete, the house filled with laughter and love. One evening when Daniel was 5 and Elizabeth was 3, the family sat on the porch watching the stars emerge. Daniel pointed up at the sky. "Papa, tell us about the stars," he requested, as he did almost nightly. Dalton lifted his son onto his lap, Elizabeth already nestled against Lily. "Those stars are constant," he began, the words familiar. They are always there, always shining, always reliable. That is how our family is, Daniel. We are constant for each other. No matter what happens, no matter what challenges come, we are here. We stay. We keep our promises. Like you promised Mama you would always come back, Daniel asked. He had heard the story of his parents' courtship many times, exactly like that. I promised your Mama I would be constant as the stars, and I keep that promise every day. Lily caught Dalton's eye over their children's heads, and the look they shared held years of love and trust. She thought back to the frightened, rootless woman who had arrived in Montana City nearly 6 years ago, unable to believe in permanence. That woman seemed like a stranger now. "Tell us how you knew you loved Mama," Elizabeth requested, her small voice drowsy. Dalton smiled. "I knew because everything felt right when she was near. The house felt like a home, the work felt meaningful, the future felt bright. She made me want to be even more constant, even more reliable, because she deserved someone who would never let her down." "Tell us how Mama knew she loved Papa," Daniel prompted Lily, the call and response as ritualized as a bedtime story. Lily ran her fingers through her son's hair. "I knew because your Papa showed me that love does not have to be unpredictable or temporary. He proved day after day that he meant what he said. He taught me that some things do last, some people do stay, and some promises are kept. He became my home." As darkness settled fully and the stars blazed overhead, Dalton carried Elizabeth inside while Daniel held Lily's hand. They tucked the children into bed, kissed them good night, and retreated to their own room. "Happy?" Dalton asked, as he did most nights. "Completely," Lily answered, as she always did. "You kept your promise, Dalton. You became constant as the stars, and you gave me the home I had always needed but never known how to find." "We gave it to each other," Dalton corrected, pulling her close. "You taught me that constancy is not just about showing up. It is about creating something worth showing up for, day after day. You made this life beautiful, Lily." They stood at their window, looking out at the land silvered by starlight. The ranch spread around them, solid and permanent, built by steady hands and faithful hearts. Their children slept safe in their beds, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow would come and their parents would be there, as constant as the mountains, as reliable as the sunrise. In the years that followed, that constancy only deepened. Through droughts and harsh winters, through cattle market fluctuations and territorial politics, Dalton and Lily faced every challenge together. Daniel and Elizabeth grew strong and confident, rooted in the stability their parents had created. When Montana achieved statehood in 1889, the Jennings family celebrated with the entire territory. Dalton served on the local school board, ensuring his children and their neighbors had access to education. Lily taught sewing classes to young women in town, passing on skills and earning her own money for the first time purely as a choice rather than necessity. Mrs. Henderson retired, and Lily bought the dress shop, running it successfully while still managing the ranch household. She proved as constant in business as in family, earning a reputation for quality work and fair dealing. Widow Murphy lived to the remarkable age of 86, dying peacefully in her sleep with Lily holding her hand. She had become like a mother to Lily, and her loss was deeply felt. But even in grief, Lily found strength in the stable life she and Dalton had built. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Dalton took Lily back to the hilltop where he had proposed. They stood in the same spot, looking out over land that was now dotted with their own cattle, at a house that had become a true home. "I have something for you," Dalton said, handing her a wooden box he had carved himself. Inside were 10 letters, one for each year of their marriage, each dated and sealed. "What are these?" Lily asked. "Letters I wrote you. One each anniversary but never gave you. They say the same thing in different ways. I love you more than the year before. You have made my life full of meaning and joy. I will be here tomorrow and all the tomorrows that follow. Lily opened the first letter, dated May 15, 1879, and read, 1 year married, and I find that constancy grows sweeter, not stale. Every day I choose you again. Every day my love deepens. You have trusted me with your heart, and I will guard it faithfully all my days. Yours eternally, Dalton. She read through all 10 letters, tears streaming down her face, each one a testament to faithful love. These are the most precious things I have ever received, she whispered. They are true things, Dalton said simply. All true. By the time their 20th anniversary arrived in 1898, Daniel was a grown man of 21, working the ranch alongside his father and courting a sweet girl from Virginia City. Elizabeth was 18, teaching school in Montana City and writing poetry in her spare time. Both children carried their parents' values. Both understood that some things were worth committing to completely. The night of the anniversary, after a celebration with family and friends, Lily and Dalton again found themselves alone on their porch. The leather journal Dalton had given her on their wedding night was nearly full now, documenting 2 decades of life together. Births and deaths, triumphs and sorrows, ordinary days and extraordinary moments, all recorded in their 2 handwritings. Read me the first entry, Dalton requested. Lily opened to the beginning and read his words from 20 years ago. Today I married Lily Garrett and became the luckiest man in Montana Territory. Still true, Dalton said firmly. Still the luckiest man, though it is Montana State now. Lily turned to a blank page near the back and wrote, May 15, 1898. 20 years married. I confessed once that I had never known consistency, that I could not trust permanence. Dalton became constant as the stars, and in doing so, taught me how to be constant too. We built a life together that has surpassed my wildest dreams, a home that has never wavered, a love that has only grown stronger. I trust completely, finally, and forever. Our love is as permanent as these mountains, as eternal as the sky. She showed it to Dalton, and he read it with tears in his eyes. You trust completely now, he asked, though he knew the answer. Completely, Lily confirmed. You have proven your constancy 10,000 times over, Dalton. You show up, you keep your word, you love faithfully. You are the most reliable thing in my life beyond the earth beneath my feet and the stars above our heads. I trust you with everything I am and everything we have built. And I will never betray that trust, Dalton promised, the same promise he had made countless times before and would make countless times again. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. They sat in their rocking chairs, holding hands as stars emerged one by one overhead. The ranch was quiet, the cattle settled, the children grown. It was an ordinary evening, and precisely because it was ordinary, it was precious. This was what Lily had never known she needed. The extraordinary gift of ordinary constancy, of waking up to the same beloved face day after day, of building traditions and rhythms, of trusting that tomorrow would come and they would face it together. Daniel married his sweetheart the following summer, and Dalton and Lily became grandparents within 2 years. Elizabeth eventually married a lawyer from Helena, moving just far enough away to have her own life, but close enough for regular visits. The family remained tight-knit, bound by the same values of commitment and constancy. As Lily held her first grandchild, a baby girl named Rose, she thought about the legacy she and Dalton had created. Not just the ranch, though it was prosperous and well-run. Not just the financial stability, though they had built security through careful management. The real legacy was the demonstration that love could be reliable, that promises could be kept, that people did not have to be temporary fixtures in each other's lives. "What are you thinking?" Dalton asked, watching her with their granddaughter. "I am thinking that Rose will never know what it is like to doubt that she is loved," Lily said. "She will grow up surrounded by constant affection, reliable support. She will never have to learn, like I did, that people can be counted on, because she will have always known it." "That is our gift to her," Dalton agreed, "and to all the grandchildren who follow, showing them what constancy looks like." More grandchildren did follow, 6 in total over the next decade. The ranch house rang with young voices during visits, and Lily transformed into a doting grandmother who always had cookies ready and stories to tell. She told them about the Wild West days, about Montana Territory becoming a state, about their grandfather's proposal on the hilltop. But mostly, she showed them what constant love looked like by example. She and Dalton, now silver-haired but still vital, still demonstrated daily devotion. They still sat together each evening, still held hands during conversations, still looked at each other with the same affection that had carried them through 30 years of marriage. When Lily turned 55, she finally stopped working at the dress shop, passing it to a young woman she had mentored. She devoted herself fully to the ranch and grandchildren, finding joy in this next phase of life. Dalton, now 60, began teaching Daniel the finer points of ranch management, preparing to eventually step back from daily operations. "I am not going anywhere," Dalton assured Lily when she worried about him working too hard. "Just sharing the load so we have more time together." They took that time and used it well. They rode out to their favorite spots on the ranch, remembering moments from their decades together. They traveled to visit Elizabeth and Helena, taking the train and staying in a hotel like proper city folk. They attended church faithfully, contributed to the community, and remained pillars of Montana city society. On their 40th anniversary, the whole family gathered for a massive celebration. Children, grandchildren, old friends, and neighbors filled the ranch. The party stretched from afternoon into evening, with music and dancing and enough food to feed a small army. As the sun set, Dalton called for quiet and stood with Lily beside him, his arm around her waist. "40 years ago," he began, his voice still strong despite his age, "I married a woman who did not know how to trust permanence. She had spent her life moving from place to place, never experiencing constancy. I promised her I would be as constant as the stars, that I would show up every day, that I would prove love could be reliable." He looked down at Lily, love shining in his eyes. "I have done my best to keep that promise, but the truth is, Lily made it easy. She is the heart of this home, the center of our family. She learned to trust, and in doing so, she became just as constant as I ever tried to be. Our love has been the bedrock of everything good in my life." Lily wiped tears from her eyes, too emotional to speak. Around them, their family watched with their own tears, witnessing a love that had truly stood the test of time. Daniel raised his glass. "To Ma and Pa, who showed us what real love looks like, constant, faithful, and true." "To Ma and Pa," everyone echoed, and the toast rang out across the ranch. That night, after everyone had departed or gone to sleep in various rooms and outbuildings, Dalton and Lily sat once more on their porch. The night was clear, the stars brilliant overhead, the same stars they had looked at together for 40 years. "Do you remember what you told me that first winter?" Lily asked softly. "About the stars." "Every word," Dalton confirmed. "I told you they were constant, that they would be there every night and that I would be like them, unchanging in my devotion." "You kept that promise," Lily said, her voice full of wonder even now. Through 40 years, through every challenge and change, you have been exactly who you said you would be. And you, my love, learned to believe it. That has been my greatest honor, earning your trust." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence only possible between two people who knew each other completely. Finally, Lily said, "I need to tell you something I have never quite put into words." Dalton turned to her, attentive as always. "When I arrived in Montana City, I was not just rootless, I was hollow," Lily continued. "I had protected myself so thoroughly from disappointment that I had stopped really living. I went through motions, did what needed doing, but there was no joy in it. I had convinced myself that not hoping was safer than hoping and being hurt." She took his weathered hand in hers. "You did not just give me constancy, Dalton. You gave me permission to live fully, to hope deeply, to trust completely. You filled that hollow place with love so steady and true that I could finally breathe. You saved me, not from poverty or danger, but from a life of emotional emptiness. That is what your constancy has meant. It has meant everything." Dalton pulled her close, and they sat wrapped in each other's arms as the stars wheeled overhead. "You saved me too," he whispered. "From loneliness, from a life of going through motions. You made this ranch a home, but more than that, you made my heart a home. We saved each other, Lily." They remained on the porch until the night grew cold, then went inside to the bedroom they had shared for 40 years. In the familiar comfort of their bed, wrapped in quilts Lily had made and surrounded by a lifetime of memories, they held each other and dreamed of more tomorrows. Those tomorrows came, one after another, constant and sure. More grandchildren were born, some eventually bringing great-grandchildren. Daniel took over full operation of the ranch, managing it with the same steady dedication his father had taught him. Elizabeth's children grew up with the same values of commitment and constancy. When Dalton turned 70, he finally retired from ranch work entirely, though he still walked the land daily, checking on things with the same careful attention he had always shown. Lily, now 65, had slowed down as well, but her spirit remained vibrant. They spent their days in each other's company, content with the life they had built. One evening, as they sat on the porch in their usual spot, Dalton said quietly, "I want you to promise me something." Lily looked at him with concern. "What is it?" "When my time comes, and it will come eventually for both of us, I want you to know that leaving you will be the only promise I have ever broken. I would stay if I could, Lily. I would be here forever if it were possible." Tears filled Lily's eyes. "Do not talk about that." "I must," Dalton said gently, "because I need you to know that my constancy has not wavered. If I could keep being here for you, I would. Death is the only thing that will part us, and even then, not really. I will be waiting for you, as constant in eternity as I have been in life. Promise me you will fight to stay," Lily said fiercely. "Promise me you will hold on." "I promise I will live every day I am given as fully as possible, loving you with everything I have," Dalton replied. "That is all any of us can promise." They held each other as night fell, both aware that their time was growing shorter but grateful for every moment they still had. In the end, Dalton lived to the remarkable age of 78, passing peacefully in his sleep in the early morning hours of a spring day in 1927. Lily woke beside him, knowing immediately that he was gone. She held his hand, still warm, and whispered, "Thank you for every single day. Thank you for being constant. Thank you for loving me so well." The funeral drew people from across Montana, a testament to the life Dalton had lived and the respect he had earned. Daniel delivered the eulogy, speaking of his father's integrity, dedication, and unwavering love for family and land. Elizabeth read a poem she had written about constancy and stars, but it was Lily who had the final word. Standing before the assembled crowd, this woman who had once been afraid to trust anything permanent, she said clearly, "My husband promised me he would be constant as the stars." For 50 years, he kept that promise. He showed me that love could be reliable, that people could be trusted, that some things truly do last. I was blessed beyond measure to be loved by Dalton Jennings, and I will carry that love with me until we meet again. After the funeral, Lily returned to the ranch that had been her home for half a century. Her children wanted her to move to town to live with one of them, but she refused. "This is where I belong," she told them firmly. "This is where Dalton and I built our life. I am not leaving it now." So Lily remained at the ranch, with Daniel and his family nearby to help, and a succession of grandchildren staying with her for company. She was not lonely, surrounded by family and memories. She continued to walk the land Dalton had loved, to sit on the porch where they had spent countless evenings, to look at the stars that had symbolized his constancy. She lived for more years, sharp-minded and loving until the end. When she died at 73, it was in the same bed where she had spent her wedding night, where she had given birth to her children, where she had held her husband's hand as he passed. Her last entry in the leather journal read, "I lived afraid to trust permanence, and then I learned what constancy truly meant. Dalton was right. Some things do last. Love lasts. Faith lasts. The bonds we forge with our hearts last beyond death and time. I am going now to join my constant star, and our love continues, eternal and unchanging. What a gift this life has been." Daniel found the journal and read this final entry at her funeral. The family gathered once more, 3 generations mourning a woman who had taught them all what it meant to trust and be trustworthy, to commit and stay committed, to love with constancy. They buried Lily beside Dalton on the hilltop where he had proposed, the spot overlooking the ranch they had built together. The headstone read, "Dalton and Lily Jennings, constant as the stars, together forever." The ranch remained in the family, passed down through generations, each one learning the story of their ancestors who had built a life on the foundation of faithful love. The leather journal was preserved, becoming a family treasure, physical proof that some promises are kept, some love is permanent, and some people truly do remain constant. On clear nights, when the Montana sky blazed with stars, the family would look up and remember the rancher who had become constant as the heavens themselves, and the wandering woman who had learned to trust permanence. Their love story became legend in Montana City, told and retold as an example of what devotion truly meant. And if love has any power at all beyond the grave, then somewhere beyond those stars, Dalton and Lily remained together still, constant and faithful, their love proving that some things truly do last forever. The ranch stood solid beneath the eternal sky, built by steady hands and faithful hearts, a permanent testament to the extraordinary power of ordinary constancy, day after day, year after year, for all the days of their lives and beyond into the eternal embrace of love that never ends.